I mean, just the very first play.
Knew it.
Like,
I mean, I didn't know it, but from that point forward, I'm like, okay.
Like the first drive defensively, I was like, okay, you're focusing on Olave. I could understand. Like JC thought he had help.
He thought he
There
had
was
help.
nobody around. I chalked that up to Fuller just getting on the roster.
It was a bust. It was just it was a simple bust of coverage.
You're gonna have that. It's Rashid's got speed like crazy.
Yeah.
And so JC thought he had coverage. I don't know why Fuller ever thought that he should crack down on. It was like a.
And he knew it. He spoke about it in
Yeah.
the post game. He knew that was a mistake on his end. I mean, we all agree.
And so I was like, all right, come out, like at least get a field goal or something, at least put some points up. And I don't know if Deontay didn't think it was coming to him or if he just overthrew him.
That was a miss. That was a miss on Bryce.
Like
he missed that.
And he was overthrowing the entire day.
Oof.
I don't know what was in his head, if he just was like, if it was like the ghost of last year.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like watching. So here's what I'll say about the Bryce performance in totality. Simply not good enough.
No.
Whether you like Bryce or you thought Bryce is the guy or you thought we should have drafted another guy last year, what Bryce has put out to this point doesn't give anybody any hope. Whether we think it was his fault last year or not, it's been now 17 games worth of Bryce Young that have not sufficed. The only game we feel great about, it would I'd probably say the Green Bay game is the one we feel the greatest about. And in the couple of wins, because in those games he did engineer drives that helped you win those games.
Yeah.
But it ain't been a whole lot to feel great about. And I talked about it. I want to say, we chopped it up with D. I want to say, I believe. And I told him, like, hey, what bought us time with Cam and Ron is that at least then it looked like something we could build on. I haven't seen anything that we can necessarily build on with Bryce. And I said this on another channel. If you have to go through film to show me where the bright spots are, dog, it ain't nothing there, bro.
Yeah,
I ain't saying ain't nothing there. I'm saying, like, if I can't look at the TV, if a fan can't look at the TV copy and see the positives, then brother, then it's not good enough.
No.
Straight up.
And like with Cam, we had a losing record that season, but Cam was throwing 400 yards with 3 touchdowns a day. Like it was losing by. We were doing everything we could to try to win. With that, we spent the entire offseason going, all right, he's got a cowbell offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
He's got marginally better weapons than he had last year. At least whether it's not been proven, we know on the sheet, on paper, they are. That's the matter of fact.
Right.
And he, and there's less injuries coming off of the start of the season. Like Tremble not being in there, I mean, I don't think it made a huge difference. Sanders, I think, missed maybe 1 or 2 blocks, but not to the point of, where it killed drives.
The O-line overall as a unit, it played better.
It did. It didn't play great.
I didn't think it was great.
But it's
either.
also that front four. I mean,
that was my concern going into the game. I said I thought the Saints defense is going to be good. Is going to be good enough to kill all of that.
Like,
that's a
how
unit
did we
that's
let
been
them
together
get? How did the NFL let them get Chase Young? How did we How is a?
Well, it's not even. To me, it's not even that. It's just. I mean, when your defense is on the field for like 10 possessions and they go up 10 scores, that's pretty.
And don't get me wrong, they held their own. Like, they were not great, but it could have been a lot worse of a score. They got the offense off sometimes with just field goals. It could have been.
Yes. That unit is as bad as I told y'all it was going to be going into the year.
And what is really killing me is linebackers. Like, there was no pass rush.
Yeah.
And they were, like, outside of Shaq. Shaq looked,
Shaq looked like Shaq.
Yeah, and Iku getting those, I think he had 3 tackles for loss in that game.
Yeah,
and we do that. Like, Josie's not it. At least not from what I saw.
I'd rather go ahead and play Trevor.
But he didn't get a single defensive snap.
Yeah.
Only special teams.
Yeah.
And, like, you can't have Clowney be your main rushing guy.
Well,
it's just
all season.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
And it's hurtful. when you say, like, we talked about who they could have get, but then like the Titans get Ernest Jones 2 weeks before the season starts. You said you went into this saying we didn't have a definitive defensive end to go on the other side of Clowney. Okay, then scheme to try to correct that.
Hey, some of these things you can't hide, bro. You
No.
know, well, if you don't have a pass rusher opposite of the one guy, then they're like you said. Well, you can scheme. You have to blitz. You have to be a lot more aggressive
Yeah.
in the blitz. But I'm gonna tell you right now what teams are gonna do. They're gonna do the exact same thing they did last year. They're gonna bludgeon you to death with the ground game.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't do anything else. Why?
And now they don't even have to block Derek Brown.
No.
That was the only thing they had to do in the Saints game was block Derek
And you were
Brown.
still the worst run defense in the league last year as well.
And so like now you're even, and like Derek Brown got those tackles because they were trying to run away from Brian Burns. So they were plugging up the middle, and he was there to take it. But now, like, I saw nothing from Ashawn Robinson or Shai Tuttle to give me any sort of confidence that they can fill the gap.
And that's what my concern is. I'm like, dog, the guys that we signed, like it never feels like the skill sets that they had coming from other places. I need somebody to do a deep dive breakdown on what happened to Shai Tuttle.
Yeah.
What happened at least to Ashawn Robinson, at least in his first game, and why we cannot get consistent penetration on run plays.
And what I want to see is, and maybe it's just because we focus on the team more, but like, it was definitely concerning and definitely obvious when Rule was at the helm. Temple guys, Baylor guys, that's where it was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at it now, I mean, Josie Jewell, Ashawn Robinson, even Shai Tuttle had been on Avero's roster before. Like, and then you look at Dane Jackson, Jordan Fuller, they were coming from, and then Mike Jack coming from Seattle and Buffalo.
Yeah.
Like, the majority of the guys that we've signed in this offseason have come from, even Clowney was on Seattle for probably a season that overlapped.
Yeah, he was there. I think he would have been there when Canales was there.
So, like, the majority of the offseason signings have been from, outside of Deontay, outside of DJ Wanham, they've been guys that have been.
You need Wanham back.
I mean, and
you need Wanham back in the worst way possible.
And the problem is that, like, I liked Wanham as a piece, as a centerpiece. I
that was always my problem.
Like,
I was like, you had to go get, because you were in a position where you couldn't get a great deal for Brian.
No.
Then you had to go make the cheap signings that we are very much accustomed to here in Carolina, especially on the defense. Then you're signing guys that aren't top end pass rushers, who wouldn't be the marquee guy anywhere else. No. They only because you are in a desperate situation. Does Clowney now have to be your A1 pass rusher, and Wanham has to be now your A1 pass rusher? Like,
and he was only getting what, 8 sacks, 10 sacks last season?
Yeah, 8 sacks last year.
Because you have guys like Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith on the roster,
right,
taking the blunt of
and then in Minnesota for Wanham, you had Daniil Hunter.
And so that's where the concerns will go. Like, all right, if it's going to be by committee, you have to have a damn good committee. Yeah. And now you've lost your best player on the team for the season.
They went into this, and I think fans and there's a sector of fans that were happy with how they handled the offseason. There's a sector of fans that weren't as happy with it. They went all in on the offense.
Yeah.
They invested in the O-line.
Yeah.
They invested in the receivers, the coach, and everything. It was all an investment to see if we can make Bryce look better. But the defense suffered because of that. And if you watched the offseason, you knew that was the case.
Yeah.
And the only hope you could have had would have just been blind faith that this unit lost Frank Louvu, Brian Burns, and a guy like and a guy that had contributed before in Jeremy Chin, and think that they got better.
But even go further down, I mean, Kambu Grugier-Hill would plug up holes and had a good connection with Frankie Louvu. The two of them together created a good zone in the middle of the field. And then even Yatur finally had his first season of actual
a guy like that
progression.
That would have been a solid rotational guy. If we're keeping a room, if we were trying to make a decent room, then having YGM there with alongside Wanham and Clowney. I mean, is it great? No, but it's better than what you have right now.
And then does Marquise Haynes come back and didn't look anything like he had, because he was a key rotational piece, and we didn't even give him a second look.
Yeah, I think he dealt with injury for the most of last season.
He did, and so either he must have just came back, 10 steps behind. But I'm like, I'll take it. He's a he was a veteran piece on the roster. I'll take it than a DJ Johnson. I mean, like what
There's guy that hasn't contributed at all, and
no.
And I look at Avero for that. I mean, that's Avero's guy.
It was your 100% pick.
Yeah.
And then we get Crumity just to ship him off. I mean, he gets injured. You get
Yeah.
Barrett just to ship him off.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not giving Trevin Wallace any opportunities.
Well, look, I mean, even in how they handled the preseason, it was one of those things where, you know, I gave him a pass because I'm like, hey, I understand prioritizing health over reps, but I knew it came at a price, and this is what I had to accept. I didn't know it was gonna come at a 47-10 price.
No.
If you would have told me that, now I'd say, hell no, get y'all asses out there.
And then injuries not even mattering when then Derek Brown comes out and now he's out off the first game. Like,
hey man, look, here's what I'm gonna give a shout out to. Panthers Culture on Twitter, who I refer to as the uncle of Panthers Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it. He was like, bro, you got to play your guys. You can't be afraid to play your guys. And I do have to have a newfound respect. Vashi said this from Carolina Blitz. Like, I definitely have a newfound respect for the preseason.
Yeah.
After watching what we displayed on Sunday.
I mean, Bryce needed a draw. He looked scared out there. Like I said, I don't know if he was just rattled by like the ghosts of the past, but like every pass except for like maybe a dozen were clear. I mean, he overthrew Leggett.
It was hard, bro. It was hard to watch.
How do you overthrow Leggett?
It was unwatchable, bro. I just gotta be completely honest. Now I think now, and again, I'm giving a shout out to a lot of guys because again, shout out to the Panthers. You know, content creator universe because there's a lot of people that do a lot of good things. The Real Ball Watcher, that's his name on Twitter, I believe, and he's got a YouTube channel as well. I watched his breakdown before I came in today. He showed some positives on the screen. Mind you, we were getting our ass kicked in.
Yeah,
by
but
this point. There were some things there. Some things that would lend to being more on Dave Canales and how he called and the personnel groups that he used. Some being on Bryce and what he's seeing on the field. It was a total team loss. That's one thing I will say. It wasn't just one particular group or one particular person. It was a total team loss.
And Canales said that on Monday in the presser when we asked him, you know, like, where do you assign it to? And he's like, it was all of us. Like, it was top to bottom, fundamentals, communication. Like, he emphasized fundamentals and communication a lot. And I understand that from a communication standpoint when it is a new regime, I guess. And, you know, the bad juju of the Superdome. I will give a little bit of credit to that. But, like, you know, there's been the concerns that they've talked about when it came to how Baker Mayfield wasn't allowed to check out of certain plays even with bad looks on the field. And, you know, we always talked about how many different angles Bryce was getting and how many different voices were coming at him. And so that is a concern for me that maybe he wasn't able to check out of some of those plays. I mean, think about it. That was the first time we have passed to not start a game, let alone start a drive, you know, in recent memory. And, you know, whether it was maybe he should have checked out of that and we just go off the run, you know, first play of the season, give it to Chuba or Miles. Be that as it may, and he admitted, he was like, you know what, we got outcoached. Like, they had schemes for every single thing that we threw at them.
He, per his words, we didn't have a counter for their counter.
No, they did not.
So so again, I can appreciate the candidness and taking responsibility for what happened on the field. Got to fix it now, though.
And I can't appreciate or give you credit for the cost. Like, this is not. If you're going to find it out, you want to find it out week one, yes, but not to this severity. Because now, and like, I think it was David Newton asked him, like, do you get worried that all the voices that have been speaking on you the entire offseason go, all right, this is just the exact same Panthers.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I mean, I want to say Xavier Woods had gotten a similar question. I already didn't hear his answer about like, you know, the fans.
Yeah.
And how the fans are reacting to this. I'm
yeah.
like, hey, look, it's critical, bro.
It is.
And I am worried about the fan base because I can't tell them they're wrong. Either side, I can't tell you you're wrong for just being dejected and not wanting to support this team.
No.
If you want to keep supporting and keep holding it down for it, I mean, more power to you. I mean, me personally, I said, I'm like, look, I don't know how much longer y'all will have me locked in. I said, dog, at some point, it has to just look better.
It does.
I can't. I'm not here to defend any particular players, any particular agendas. Anybody can keep as many receipts as you want to about what I'll say about this team moving forward. Keep the receipts. You can make a return with it all. I don't give a damn, but it's bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good. I mean, at the end of the day, we know what good football looks like here in Carolina.
Yeah.
That ain't it, and it has to be better.
And Canales is going to get a rude awakening come Sunday when he was in Tampa Bay off of a few years removed of Brady in the Super Bowl, so they still were getting fairly consistent. And 12th man's always going to show up in Seattle, no matter how bad they are. He's going to walk to an empty ass stadium.
You gonna have to earn the support here, bro. Unfortunately, and it's not his fault.
No,
it's
and that's the
it's been
problem.
years from up top that's caused this precipitous fall. He's got to eat, but unfortunately, he's got to be the one to deal with the brunt of it.
And I will say, the one thing I did appreciate was we looked at it last year. If you think about last year in games like that, Frank would have lied down.
Yeah.
A lot of those drives would have ended in field goals or just running up the middle. Don't really care.
Right.
I do appreciate that he was still calling dynamic plays, trying to formulate drives to show some semblance of a game plan.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that because it did. It did give me some sort of hope that, hey, maybe he does know what the heck he's trying to do here. But I think, unfortunately, in the long run, what is going to end up happening is that he's going to be a sacrifice.
To my Dave?
Both Dave and Bryce Young. I think that they're going to, best case scenario, or I think most reasonable scenario in my mind is that their steps to reset the damage that had been done by previous regimes and coaches and Matt Rule and Frank Reich are going to be not in vain, but that's going to be, I think, unfortunately, the ceiling for both of them.
In my mind, this is what has to happen. You can't jump ship under no circumstance.
No,
you jump
you can't.
ship.
I don't think
if you're David Tepper, you cannot press a reset button again. You gotta roll with it.
And I think that is what's going to happen. But I'm talking I think you're going to see 3-4 years of
this is being
middle of the road, mediocre, middle of the road, middle of the road.
Middle of the road would get people back in the building. Middle of the road 2022 got us believing we got us saying protect the bank.
That's true.
That's what middle of the road got you then. I'm telling you, bro, this fan base is so starved for something to look decent, dog. Fam, we had slogans for a 7-10 team. we was dead ass making chants up, all types of bro, come on, man. But this fan base so starved, bro. This city is so bad at everything, bro. They looking for anything to root for.
Yeah, they are.
So I think any little semblance of relevance and competency that you can get, they'll take.